I really think that right now we're actually being more aggressive, because I think for the first 5 races we're going to be real aggressive to try to get the wins, to try to get those bonus points.
That's Jeff Gordon right there, with video actually taken prior to last week's race at Las Vegas. Him talking about taking chances to win races. He took a chance. He lost the race. He dominated Gavin Faretra. I'm Dave D'Onofrio here with another edition of Race Day Preview, and let's get right to that decision. Jeff Gordon, 265 out of 267 laps last week spent in the top 5, 219 at the front of the field, yet he finishes 3rd. Gavin, I'll ask you, for so many years we treated Jeff Gordon like he was the preeminent racer in the Sprint Cup. Has Jimmie Johnson taken over that title as far as a career driver is concerned?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's beyond the 4 straight championships, which is beyond impressive and something that only no one else has done. So that aside, I think he has moved forward. He has kind of leapfrogged Jeff Gordon for that spot, but I think that's only going to drive Gordon to be better and have competition like that with him. I know you may think a little bit differently, and I'd love your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think when you look at Gordon and you look at Johnson, they both have the same number of Sprint Cup titles. I think whoever gets that 5th one will be beyond argument at that point. But I think you look at Gordon's titles, he won them in such dominating fashion. He won them in a different era under a different point system. And if you take that point system and apply it to his dominant 2007 season, which Johnson was technically the champion of, even though Gordon had significantly more points for the whole season, I think maybe we start to look at things in a little different perspective. I think Gordon has done it for longer. He's done it for twice the time that Johnson's been around. So I think before we pass the mantle too quickly, I think Jeff Gordon's still the guy as far as active career drivers in NASCAR.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think anything about the point system, and that you hit the nail on the head right there. That you look back at that year that Jeff Gordon had a couple of years ago, and he was so dominant. And then they got into the chase, and Johnson just kind of went on a roll there and stole it from him. So, and I think that's exactly what he did. He stole it from him, because you look at what Gordon did that season, and like you said, he was so dominant that was his championship to win.
It took a top five average finish for Johnson to win that title. Gordon was under 6. It shows you how impressive Johnson was that year. But we shouldn't take anything away from Gordon, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. And like you said, whoever gets to that 5th one first, we'll see who that'll be.
Yeah, and I think another thing we have to consider in this argument is the crew chief. We've seen Chad Knaus and Jimmie Johnson win 4 in a row here. Steve Letarte has never won a Sprint Cup title with Jeff Gordon, and you look at that factor, his decision last week was essentially what cost Gordon the race. They thought everyone was going to go for 2 tires, so they took 2 tires. Most people instead took 4, including Johnson, including Kevin Harvick, both of whom passed them at the finish. Is Steve Letarte the man to lead Gordon to a title, or does the 24 team need to change?
No, I don't think they need to change. I think he's been solid for them. And you look at last week, and of course now we're going to put that on the magnifying glass, that little error. Now is he the right guy? I think he is. And whatever he was going to do, everyone else was going to do the opposite, because he had been such a strong car all day. They were going to either try to beat him off pit lane, or they were going to take 4 tires, which they did, and were able to catch him. So I don't think we need to debate that too long. I think it was just a 1-week thing, but I do think Letarte is the right guy for Gordon.
It's a good point. I mean, these cars were watching Gordon all day, saw that he was clearly the fastest car, and they had to do something. If they went with the same strategy as him, there was no way they were going to catch him, and it paid off. I think Letarte, he's a solid crew chief. He's improved a lot since he first took the job. That was a tough year for Gordon, coming off of Robbie Loomis. But I'm not sold on Steve Letarte as yet. I think that Chad Knaus and Steve Letarte, working out of that same Hendrick garage, they work in the same race shop. One team wins championships, one team's consistently a top 5, but has yet to win a championship. I think that reflects on the guy who ultimately sits atop the pit box.
Yeah, I can't argue that point. Knaus has just been simply amazing since he's joined Jimmie. So he's the cream of the crop right now, and everybody else is trying to catch them. And I realize they're on the same team, they share information, but Knaus is doing something extra that we're not seeing. So I think they're all trying to catch him, But for me, Letarte is the right guy for Gordon.
And with Chad's history, who knows if the NASCAR officials are seeing some things too.
Exactly.
Moving on to who to watch now. We start with the guy who is going through a crew chief change himself, Kurt Busch. Pat Tryson off the box after last season. This team, which was a chase contender last year, down to 19th in the standings, fell 8 places after a poor run at his home track in Vegas. Gav, is this team working through some things? Is this team going to be able to recover, or is this kind of what they are?
Yeah, I think they're working through some things, and it's interesting that you drop Tryson, and that was a comeback season for him. I was starting to think that Kurt Busch was long gone. It was Kyle Busch's time, and the brother was taking a back seat. But he was the one that made the chase last year, and he had a great season.
Yeah.
So I think they're just trying to work through some things. I thought that was an interesting change, but obviously there was something to that. So he was on the pole last week. He ended up finishing 35th, but I think it's just a work in progress, and hopefully they'll be able to fix it, because I thought he was pretty good last year.
Yeah, we'll have our eye on them this weekend. We'll also have our eye on Juan Pablo Montoya, specifically with his eye on Jamie McMurray, his teammate. They were involved in a wreck last weekend. It dropped Montoya to 27th in the standings, and it also brought out some animosity between the two guys. Is this the hindrance, and what do you think of Montoya's reaction?
Well, the reaction, it doesn't surprise anyone. It's just, I think it was inflamed because it was the fact that it was a teammate, and that drove him a little bit more nuts. So McMurray, solid guy, seems it anyway. I think it was an accident. He ended up finishing 34th, so it's not like he went on to finish third in the race or a top 10 finish. Not that makes it okay or right, but I think it was just an incident that happened. They don't have to be best friends, but they do have to work together, share information, and make sure that they're working as a team out there on the track. Hopefully they'll be able to do that and put this behind them.
I love the Ronald McDonald quip, by the way. That was
very
classic.
Good. Very good.
Under the radar now, we move on to a guy I think last year could not have gone under the radar because we had our eyes squarely on him, the teenage phenom, Joey Logano. He's in 8th place right now. He's got 2 top 10s in 3 races. You look at his teammates, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, goose egg. 0 top 10 finishes for either of those guys. Right now, he's the best car in the Gibbs stable. I don't think it's going to stay that way, but are we looking at Joey Logano now as a fringe chase guy?
I think so, until we start talking about him every week again, which I think is part of it. And we did bring this up last week too, and I think it's the fact that he's kind of under the radar this year to a certain extent, and that people aren't really on him because it's not his rookie year anymore. He's got that year under his belt. So I think the fact that people aren't on him every 2 seconds is helping him just focus on races and not worry about, because if he finishes 25th, nobody's talking about it. If he finishes 3rd, nobody's talking about it. So right now, he's right where he wants to be, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantasy picks. You can see here, fluke last week. Gavin edges me by 11 points. I don't know how it happened either. But for the season, I still got him 852 to 756. My team this week on the A list, Jeff Gordon, last 3 years, a 7.1 average finish at Atlanta. B list, I'm on the Logano train. I'm going with him and Matt Kenseth. And I will take 6-time Atlanta winner Bobby Labonte as my C list. Why not guy?
Wow, did we copy off each other here?
Probably. I went first.
I also took Jeff Gordon, 14 top 5s. 4 wins there, and like he said, an under or just over 7 average finish. So obviously he's solid. I'm also going with Matt Kenseth, 6 top 10s there, but I'm rolling with Kevin Harvick just simply on the fact that he's red hot. He only has 1 win at this track, and he hasn't been historically great there. But with the way he's racing right now, he raced all the way from the back last week, so clearly he's got something going for him. And obviously Bobby Labonte, myself, I'm going to be taking him with 6 career wins there. So no doubt that he'll not maybe what he used to be, but certainly still on the same page.
Harvick's certainly a good guy to ride. He's hot right now, points leader. I'll let you go winner first this week, since I've done it first the last 3 weeks.
Well, I'm just same reason why I'm going with Harvick. I'm going with Jimmy Johnson. I mean, until he stops winning, I'm just going to roll with him. He's got 2 straight wins. He looks good. Solid start to the season, and historically, he hasn't been great to start the year. He's been more of a finisher. So maybe we're looking at an opposite end here. Maybe he'll falter down the stretch. But I'm going with Johnson this week.
I'm going with a guy near and dear to your heart, Carl Edwards. He has 3 career Atlanta victories. I think this is the week he gets number 4. We'll check on those picks next week. Thanks for tuning in. For Gavin, I'm Dave. We'll see you.
Take care.